Shalom everyone, we are continuing our study of Yeshayahu. We are up to Perek Chaf Aleph, and these are various Nevuos. And Yeshayahu is Bechlal, I've said many times already, is a very, very difficult sefer. We often don't know what events he is referring to, if the events have already happened or they will happen. Some of his Nevuos are short-term Nevuos about Assyria and Sancheriv. Some of them are longer-term nevuos, and some of them are acharis hayamim nevuos. And the Meforshim are sometimes in machlokes. How do you classify any one of the nevuos? And in addition, sometimes all of these things can be mixed in a single nevuah, or even a single pasuk, in which they're short-term, medium-term, long-term, messianic, and it kind of zigzags back and forth. So Perek Chaf Aleph begins, Masa, a burdensome prophecy, meaning a prophecy of tragedy, Midbar Yom, of the western desert. Now, what is the western desert? So here, Rashi explains that this is yet another nevuah about the downfall of Bavel. Now remember, when Yeshayahu is getting this nevuah, there is no Babylonian Empire. I mean, there's a country of Bavel, but it's very, very insignificant. In Yeshayahu's time, the dominant power is Ashur. Ashur is the one that exiled the 10 tribes. Ashur will be the one that will conquer most of Malchus Yehuda. Ashur will be the one that will try to conquer Yerushalayim, but then a miracle will come and defeat its army. Now, Ashur was eventually conquered by the Babylonian Empire. That's Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar succeeds where Sancheriv did not. Nebuchadnezzar actually is going to destroy the first Beis HaMikdash, destroy Yerushalayim, and exile. But Nebuchadnezzar in turn, well, not Nebuchadnezzar himself, but Nebuchadnezzar was succeeded by his son Avil Merudach. Avil Merudach was succeeded by Belshazzar, and in the reign of Belshazzar, Persia conquered the Babylonian Empire, and then we have Koresh, Achashverosh, Daryavesh, etc. So Ashur is conquered by Bavel, which is modern-day Iraq, and Bavel will eventually be conquered by Paras and Madai. And that's when Ezra and Nehemiah are given permission to go back to Eretz Yisrael, rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. That is the story of Purim and Mordechai that is coming up. Now, Iraq is ancient Bavel. Iran is Persia, Paras and Madai. And therefore, on a map, Bavel is to the west of Persia. Now, Persia is coming from the east, and therefore Bavel here is described as a westerly desert. Vis-a-vis Persia, it will be rendered a desert, a desolate place that is to the west of Persia. So this is a nevuah about the western desert. Now again, Bavel is east of Eretz Yisrael. That's why the Gemara always calls Eretz Yisrael Ma'arava. Eretz Yisrael is west of Bavel. But vis-a-vis Persia, Bavel is Ma'arav, Yam is Ma'arav, and therefore this is a masa, a burdensome prophecy of the western desert, i.e. Bavel. So, again, it's a little strange for us because this is a nevuah about the destruction of Bavel before there is even a malchus of Bavel that is significant. Kisufos banegev lachalof, like a storm in the Negev, in the southern desert of Eretz Yisrael, shall the Persians pass through like a storm. Mi midbar ba me eretz nora'ah. The news that we get from the desert of Babylonia will be awesome and fearsome. Chazus kosher hu gadli. A very hard, difficult tragic news was told to me, b'nevuah. Habogate, bogate. He who is treacherous shall be treacherous. Because again, the nevuah is actually expressing something that did happen. Because Belshazzar was assassinated by his own servants, allowing the Persians to come in. So there was treachery. Hashodate, shodate. And the plunderer shall plunder, meaning through the treachery of Belshazzar's own servants. Shall the plunderer of Persia come in. Ali Elam, rise Elam. Elam was a district in Persia. Tsuri Madai, besiege the cities of Bavel, Madai. Kol anchasa hishpati. All of the sighing and the groaning of Persia and Madai, who at one point were subordinate to Nebuchadnezzar, I have taken away their grief, because they shall be in the ascendancy. Al Kain, the Navi says, Malu masnai chalchala. My loins are filled with trembling. Now again, it's hard to imagine, really, that the Navi is emotionally upset that Bavel, the Russia, is going to be destroyed. So this is really poetic language, meaning to say, yeah, Baruch Hashem, they're getting their just desserts. But the destruction will be so awesome that I will literally be shaking. Pains have grabbed me like the pains of a woman in labor. Again, a bit of a remez, that the suffering of Bavel is a precursor for the Geula of Am Yisrael. Navesi mishmaya, I turn away, I don't want to hear the news. Nivhalti miraos, I am too astounded to look, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. Ta levavi, my mind and heart want to wander away, I don't want to focus on the devastation that Persia will bring to Bavel. Palatzot biasosni. Palatzot are like convulsions, have made me fearful. Es neshef chishki. The nights of my pleasure, I thought I would enjoy, again poetically, I thought I would enjoy the evening meal, the drinks of the evening. Samli l'chagada. God has made it a source of trembling. Now again, this is a little bit of a remez to Nevuah, because the night Belshazzar was killed, he made a huge party at night, in which he took out the kalim of the Beis HaMikdash, and he ate and he drank in those kalim. And then there was handwriting on the wall, a huge hand wrote the words, Minei Minei Takalu Parsin, which is Aramaic, your deeds have been counted and weighed, and your kingdom will go to the Persians. And that was the night Belshazzar was killed by one of his own servants, and Persia took over the empire. So the remez is very, very stark. Yeshayahu is speaking in first person, but he's really speaking in the voice of the Babylonians. Neshef chishki. This was the neshef. This was the evening of my cheshek, my delight. Samli l'chagada. God turned it into trembling and fear. Aruch HaShulchan, the Babylonians said, right, this is the basis of the Aruch HaShulchan. Aruch HaShulchan, let's set the table. Safo hatzafis, let us light the menorah. Achol shaso, let us eat and let us drink. Again, the Navi is speaking as if he's a Babylonian, but this was the attitude of the Babylonians. Set the table, light the lamp, eat and drink. Kumu hasarim mishchu magen. Arise, our powerful officers, and anoint your shield with oil. That's kind of a sign of victory. But that's not what happened. Kikai Amar Eli Hashem. Now this is over 100 years before those events happened. Yeshayahu is saying, this is what Hashem said to me. Lech hameid hamitzapeh. So this is a little complicated, because this is like a nevuah within a nevuah. Yeshayahu is given a nevuah to get somebody to be a watchman. But this is all a dream. It's all kind of a dream. he dreams that he went to get a mitzapeh, a watchman, a lookout. Asher yira yagid. And whatever this lookout tells you, or whatever he sees rather, he will tell you. Now again, this is a dream. Vira'ah. Now here it says, Vira'ah. The watchman, Yeshayahu got a watchman. The watchman saw, so Yeshayahu is dreaming what the watchman sees. Rechev Semed Parashim. He sees a chariot that is led by a pair of horses, or actually cavalry. That means there are two horses leading the chariot, but on the horses there are riders. And in addition, Rechev Chamor, a chariot that is led by a donkey, very unusual. Rechev Gamal, and another chariot that is led by a camel. So it's not clear here. This is a very unclear picture. Are we talking about three chariots? One, a pair of horses, one chamor, one gamal. Right, so there are three chariots here. Or is it one chariot and the meaning of the tzemed, of the pair of prashim, is a chamor and a gamal? You can learn it two ways. The Mefarshim describe it in different ways. V'hikshiv keshev rav kashev. And this watchman, Yeshayahu is saying, this watchman that I appointed, again in my dream, is paying attention to hear the words that are going to be said. Vayikra Aryeh al mitzvah. And the lion, so metaphorically, again, this is now the mitzvah, the lookout person, is described as a lion. Now, is this part of the dream imagery? That the lookout person was a lion? Now again, lion is a remez to Bavel. Rashi brings a chazal that in this dream sequence, the watchman is Chabakuk, who himself is a Navi, and Aryeh, Bigamatria, has the same numerical equivalent as Chabakuk. But Yeshayahu sees the mitzvah saying the following: Hashem, God, Anochi Omei Tomid Yomam Omeshparti Anochi Nitzav Kol Haleilos. I'm waiting the whole day to understand what's going on, and I even stay up all night. V'nei zeh ba rechev ish semet prashim. And I see these chariots that are led. Vayan vayimer. And the mitzvah, the watchman, hears a voice from heaven. Nafla, Nafla, Bavel. Behold, Bavel is going to fall. V'chol pesile elayah, and all the idols of its false gods, its avodah zaras, shibar lioretz, God will smash to the ground. Medusha si uben gorni. Bavel will be like grain that you thresh, disha. When you thresh grain, you beat it, till you pull out the good seeds. They will be like threshed grain that accumulates in a goren, in a granary. Asher, right. So that's the voice that the mitzvah hears, and Yeshayahu now says on the whole dream sequence, Asher shamati me'es Hashem tzivakos ulekei Yisrael, higadati lachem. Speaking to Bnei Yisrael, I am telling you everything about Bavel that I heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And again, the Mefarshim say, or the Midrashim say, it's not clear that the remez to the donkey and the gamal are connected to the identity of Paras and Madai. Aryeh is Nebuchadnezzar Bavel, and essentially the lion shall fall to the donkey and to the camel. But it's a very enigmatic because the Nevuah incorporates having another Navi who is functioning as a mitzvah, as a lookout, and in the Nevuah of Yeshayahu, he is describing what that other Navi is seeing and experiencing. So that is the first Nevuah in Perek Chaf Aleph, and that's called Masa Midbar Yam, a vision for the western desert, which is Bavel, that is west of Paras and Madai. Now we have a second Nevuah. These are three short Nevuahs. Masa Duma, a vision of Duma. Now, Duma is actually one of the Bnei Yishmael, but Rashi actually says that this is not a Nevuah about Yishmael. This is a Nevuah about the downfall of Edom. Now, this is really much more of a long-term Nevuah, because if it is Bavel who destroyed the first Beis HaMikdash, it is Edom, the descendants of Edom, which is Rome, that destroyed the second Beis HaMikdash. And that was 490 years later. 70 years of Babylonian exile and 420. In other words, between the Chorban Bayis Rishon by the Babylonians and the Chorban Bayis Sheni by the Romans is 490 years. So now Yeshayahu is not only prophesying about Rome destroying the Second Temple, he is prophesying about the eventual downfall of Edom. Now, this is Lav Dafka, the Roman Empire, because the truth of the matter is, the whole Gullus that we're in is still called Gullus Edom, because it all comes from that second Chorban Beis HaMikdash. And the Gullus Edom is so long, thousands of years. Right now it's almost 2,000 years. So this is a Nevuah of comfort in the long, dark Gullus of Edom, a Gullus of Chorban, a Gullus of Holocaust, a Gullus of assimilation. And Eli Kairei Meseir, the Navi Yeshayahu says, I hear a voice that's calling me from Seir. Seir was the ancestral land of Esav. A voice is coming from, not from the nation of Esav, but coming from the place of Esav. Now, granted, Esav here is not living in Seir. Esav is the whole Gullus, but it's called Seir. And what is that voice? That voice is of the Jewish people. Shomer, guardian, speaking to God. God is the Shomer Yisrael. Hine lo yonav lo yishan Yisrael. Shomer, ma milayla. How long will this night last? Again, Shomer, our protector. Ma milail. How long? The Navi Yeshayahu is so beautiful, moving imagery. We call out to the Shomer. When will it be day? How long will this night last? And what does the Shomer answer? What does Hashem answer? Amar Shomer, Asa Baiker. The mornings have already come. V'gam Laila. But then it became night again, meaning there were many, many times there was an opportunity for the morning. Tshuva, Maisim Tevim. But if we don't take those opportunities, it's like a person sleeps. A person sleeps during the day, wakes up at night and says, when will there be a day? And he stays up for hours and hours at night and then falls asleep 5 a.m. and doesn't wake up until 5 at night. So he's never awake when it's day. So he only sees the night. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that's what's going on. The morning has come, but you were asleep. And now it's night again. Im tivayun, if you truly desire Geula, ba'ayu, pray for it. Shuvu, return to God. Esayu, and it will come to you. So this is only 2 psukim. Omar Shaimer, Asa Baiker Gam. Again, those of you that say the Zemer, Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chayil, Motzei Shabbos, now know that these words come from the Navi Yeshayahu. Okay, so that is the second Nevuah. So the first Nevuah is the Mapala of Bavel. The second Nevuah is the Mapala of Edaim, which is really messianic. Now we have a third Nevuah, Masa, a burdensome Nevuah, a Nevuah of Paranias, Barav, in Arabia, and this refers to the Bnei Yishmael, and this specifically is a Nevuah about something, again, this is before it happened, that the Bnei Yishmael did to Am Yisrael at the time of the Chorban of the first Beis HaMikdash, that when we were being led in chains by Nebuchadnezzar away from Eretz Yisrael, the Bnei Yishmael, who are really our brothers, offered us food and water, so we thought. The food was very, very salty, so we became extremely thirsty, and they gave us gourds which supposedly contained water, but instead they were filled with very hot air. And when the gourds were open, and we sucked in that air caused basically our intestines, our stomach, to rupture. And many, many Jews died. And this was the false hospitality of Bnei Yishmael, who came to us in the guise of a brother, but in reality just wanted our deaths in a gruesome, suffering way. And Hashem says there will come a time, again, it's not clear what time this will be, that the Bnei Yishmael will suffer their punishment. Bayar, Barav, Tolinu, or Chos Dedanim. In the forests of Arabia, because there was a time that Arabia did have forests, the caravans of Dedanim, these are like Bedouin caravans, Dedanim are Bnei Yishmael, Tolinu were able to lodge. Likras Sameh Eseyu Mayim. To those who were calling for thirst, you should have brought water. So not that you did bring water, you should have brought water. Yeshvei Eretz Tema, Belachamo Kidmu Nodein. You who dwell in the land of Tema. Tema is, again, one of Yishmael's sons, and this is Musar to the Bnei Yishmael. You should have given bread to the wanderer, which you did not. Ki mipnei charavais nadadu. The Yidden that were wandering because of swords. Mipnei cherev netusha, because of the murderous sword that was spread out on Eretz Yisrael. Mipnei keshes derucha, because of the bows that were drawn to kill them. Mipnei kaved milchama, because of the great heaviness and difficulty of war. Where was your Rachmanis? They were suffering from all of this persecution. And you gave them nothing, and you destroyed them. And therefore, Ki Chai Amar Hashem Elai. The Navi Yeshayahu says, so says Hashem to me, B'yod Shana, in only a year, Kishnei Sochir, as the years of a hired hand. Now this is a little difficult. We had this expression before, like the years of a hired hand. We know that in Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave can work for up to 6 years and then goes free. But if you stam hire a worker, generally speaking, the duration of a contract is not supposed to be more than 3 years. So usually Kishnei Sochir means 3 years. But here you have an unusual phrase, in 1 year, like the years of a hired worker. Right? So what does that mean? The years of a hired worker are 3 years. So the Meforshim explain that it means when a person is a hired worker, as soon as his contract is over, he wants to go back to his family. We're talking about workers who kind of away from their family. So it means the same way a worker's term will not be extended. As soon as it's over, he's going to go home. I'm telling you, in 1 year, not a second later, there will be paranias on Yishmael. V'kala kol kavayit Kedar. All the glory of Kedar, again, Kedar was one of the children of Yishmael, shall be destroyed again by Sancheriv. Ushar mispar keshes gibore b'nei Kedar yimatu. And all of the archers, the bows and arrows of the mighty ones of Bnei Kedar shall be diminished. Ki Hashem Elokei Yisrael Diber, because the Almighty has spoken. 3 nevuas: the fall of Bavel, the fall of Edom, the fall of Yishmael. But the fall of Yishmael seems to be a short-term prophecy. The fall of Edom is messianic, and the fall of Bavel is middle level. It's around 100 years or so from this particular point. And that is the end of Perek Chaf Aleph.